Goldylocks Productions provides professional internet, TV, and radio shows in the spiritual and New Age genre.
Hi, everybody. Anthony Rodriguez here, Walking Crow for the Transformation Sacred Drum Medicine Show. Did I just fumble that? Let me try that again. Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine Show. Welcome to another Tuesday edition. I am so excited today about my special guest, Amalia Kamateros, shaman extraordinaire from Sedona, Arizona. I am so excited. But before we get into that, I want to welcome you, and I want to take a little time to take a little sage, and I want to clear the airways and clear the computers and all the telephones and all the phone lines and all the connections and communications. We would have a open connection, open download from Spirit, that Amalia and I could share the messages that we need to share, and I would ask beautiful questions and talk about her beautiful book and her journey and how she got from point A to point B, that we would be clear channel. Hey, welcome everybody, and thank you for coming to another Tuesday edition. Wow, what I'm excited. Can you tell? I'm just excited to be here, and I'm excited to do the show. Before we get started in the show, I want to talk about where I'm going to be over the next few weeks, and actually the next couple of months. My calendar is really filling up, and I have a lot of stuff going on. As usual, every Tuesday, the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine Show at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time, here with on our Blog Talk Radio and Be Live TV. And then on Thursday night at 8 p.m., every Thursday night, I do a free shamanic drumming, 20 to 25 minutes of drumming, where you can journey to meet your spirit guides, spirit animals. You can get a healing. You can go to the place of the fire, place of the fire, and receive your gifts. What will you come across? Who will you see? Who will you talk to? What will be your experience when you journey with sound, vibration, magic, drum, bath, journey, every Thursday night at 8 p.m. live on Facebook. All right, so where are we here? So we got that done. Healing the emotional body through the 7 sensitivities, root to crown. This Saturday at 11 a.m. at Lyd & Mo's photography studio in Pasadena, in Old Town Pasadena. We are going to be, Diana Bohan and I are going to be teaching you the chakra systems and how they are attached to the subtle energy body. And your emotions are attached to the subtle energy body through the chakra systems. And we're going to teach you how you can heal. And Diane is going to be doing also yoga poses for each chakra. She'll be teaching 3 yoga poses while I'll be drumming and talking about the emotions that are attached and how you can heal yourself and what that feels like in your body. Also, sound vibration magic bath drum journey on the April 20th with my host Shakoba Hawk Wing at 7:30 in Pasadena. We will give you that address when you register. It's $25, and that it comes with a light dinner. And also on May 5th, I will be in Sedona, in the place of the home of our special guest. And I'll be teaching this side of consciousness. And I'm excited. I'm excited about being there because I'll be able to be with you at the Sedona Creative at the Sedona Creative Life Center over on Shinobi Hill Road. And it's going to be $40, and it'll start at 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And we will be learning about consciousness, what consciousness is for you, what consciousness isn't for you, and how you can come into your consciousness and how to walk through the consciousness and new consciousness of your life. And then on the 19th of May here in Los Angeles, in Pasadena, I will be teaching a drum making workshop, and we will be making 12-inch 12-inch drums, and it's going to be $200 for a 4-hour, 2-day event where you will learn how to make a drum. You will come into and set the intentions for the cylinder, the drum, and the skin, and you will be able to make that in a ceremonial way with me on those 2 dates. So that'll be $200, and you can find all that information on Eventbrite, and you can pay for that on Eventbrite and that sort of thing. Just like you knew. Okay. Okay. So that's it for my calendar. And right now, what I'd like to do is, before I pull these cards before the show, links contrary, and links contrary this means you have not been in you have been making too much noise. You have not been in your silence. It's in the silence that the transmission comes. It's in the silence that the download comes. It's in the silence that we become reflective, and the reflection of source. And source will download to us if we just be still and know. Be still and know that Creator is. Be still and know that God is. Be still and know that I am the I am that I say I am, and I will be taken care of always. And also expansion. The 5th chakra card, being in my silence and trusting that the spirits and all around me are taking care of me each and every day, taking care of you. Trust in your journey. In your journeys, you will be taken care of. And you know that Creator is, and you know that you are, and you know what you know is absolutely what you know. Wow. 2 powerful cards. I won't be pulling any more cards today because of our special guest. And if anybody wants, they can reach out to me later on, and I'll do that offline, But one of the things I like to do now is I'd like to read my guest's bio. Amalio Kamateras, author of Spirit of the Stones, is a ceremonialist, an international teacher and speaker, shamanic practitioner, and a personal empowerment and transformational guide who inspires us to get embodied and centered within our beings and to reconnect with the earth as a sacred temple of living spirit. Wow, that's amazing. I just love reading it. She is a naturopathic doctor from Australia who has worked in the field of health and consciousness for over 26 years and was the private health practitioner for the famous Australian rock band In Excess. Wow, that's pretty heavy. I love knowing that because I was a big fan of In Excess in the 70s and 80s. For over 6 years, she has garnered a notable reputation as a powerful facilitator of earth spirit dance, shamanic dance workshops, and ecstatic dance Sedona, along with her own healing practice called Earth Spirit Wisdom Healing. She also is a counselor and Sanctuary of Sedona, a shamanic-based addiction recovery retreat center. I didn't know that. A service of her mastery is to get you back on track, reawaken your spirit, and embody the wisdom of earth into your full potential of self. If you want to reach Amalia, you can reach her at earthspiritwisdom.com. And Amalia, welcome to the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine Show. I am so excited. I did not know that you work with people in recovery. I didn't know that. Wow. Amazing. So how are you? Welcome.
Recovery from all the gamuts, from living life all the way through to what you do throughout the life.
That's what you do. You do it all.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was such a treat to meet you when I was in Sedona last to meet you when I was in Sedona last. And yes. I was able to hear of you and know of you and read this amazing book, which I'm halfway through. And
already, that's great.
And I get drawn in the more I read it, So before we get to that, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing lately, and and tell us a little bit about your journey, because that's why we're here.
Well, first I'll answer the first question, and as people might already gather, instead of trying to figure out where my accent comes from, it's from Australia. I was called here from Australia 20 years ago or so, from a particular configuration of rocks called Chimney Rock. And it was a very powerful, strong download. I was sitting in my medicine wheel on my land, regathering my thoughts after days, and after giving a lot of sessions as a naturopath doctor, and the word Sedona came through, and I was called here, like many do, but this was a very strong shamanic calling to come here to Sedona to do the earth work, to become a secretary for the earth, to become a secretary for the messages and spirit and the wisdom of the earth by presencing and being still with the rocks and listening to the messages of wisdom, just like the ancients would do. So that's what I have been doing sort of a long time past, and I had written the book as a result of that. And now what I'm doing is implementing all that I've learned from Mother Earth, the great shamanic healeress, and learned from her, learned from the stars, learned from the sky, learned from the rocks, learned from the elements, and listened to the wisdom like the ancients would, and configured that down into the book to share that with the people. But now I implement that information, that wisdom, in with my work with people. So what I offer is a blend of naturopathic healing, natural doctor in Australia, and all the different things I've learned through, 12 Vipassana meditation retreats, silent meditation retreats, and all the different rebirthings I've done, and the conscious body work I've been through, and the foot reflexology that I've taught. All of that has come in with the wisdom of the earth to create a chrysalis, to create a container for the wisdom that is really always there. It's just a matter of listening in and being present, as we just said with the cards, because it's available for everybody.
Yes.
If we would just stop and listen. So what I do now is I give sessions to people who come as I'm a psycho-shamanic therapist, healer, counselor, and I work from, families with couples, as we mentioned, addiction recovery, and take them out and give them an experience with Mother Earth, ground their energy, get them centered back into their own inner alignment with earth and heaven, earth and sky, and teach them also to be able to come back into that inner alignment and groundedness into the power point of Mother Earth to be able to access the wisdom.
I love that you did this, because when I see that and I feel that,
yes.
It's become part of my teaching, because I say, this is my divine hand, my left hand, the hand of divine feminine, right hand, divine masculine.
Yes.
And I always say, when I bring those into alignment of who and what I am, I become she-man, shaman.
Yes,
and
beautiful.
The understanding of that, that's not anything anybody ever said to me. It's one of the downloads that I've gotten over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you, you work with people in recovery, and I've been in recovery for 26 years. And you stay, they're saying, and there is, stay in the middle of the herd. Well, what's happened to me is I can no longer stay in the middle of the herd for years now, for about 5 or 6 years, because of what I know, because of my practices. I feel like I've become a part from, but I've been able to go back with a whole different message that I carry for those people who are still either smoking cigarettes and giving themselves those chemicals in their body,
Mm-hmm.
and don't know how to be centered. They're still up here in the ethereal world, up in their stinking thinking, if you will. And I talk about that constantly, the stinking thinking, and the fact that you're bringing people bringing them through earth and sky into their grounding, their body, be right here, right now is for me. That's a work that I can't get enough of, and I can't get enough of being able to speak that, teach that. And thank you for doing that kind of work, because I didn't know till today that you did that kind of work. And that blows me away. And what that sounds like is that I didn't read your bio, but you know how it is when we read things, we can skip over stuff that doesn't seem important at the time to get to the juice, the juice. But that is the juice, and I missed it, and I'm sorry that I missed that the first time.
Yeah, that's okay.
So you work with earth medicine, grounding the rocks, and listening to the messages that come through. Is there anything that you have to do to lead up to that Is there a process for you before
Yes,
you
there
move
is.
into
Yeah,
that process?
there is. Well, the thing is that I'm more about giving other people an experience now. I mean, for me, I'm already feel grounded. I know how to ground my energy. I live through that way of being. So even though I might get scattered, I know exactly where I'm in. I'm not lost in that. So what I would do with other people, for example, is, I mean, that's two different questions. I'm not sure which way to go now. One is when I'm retrieving wisdom from the stones, and the other one is how I take people into their grounding. So I'm not sure which one would you like to hear.
Well, one is how you go through the process of getting there for you
For me, okay, yeah, sure.
For you.
So for me, what I would do is, because number one, I was called here from the rocks, from Australia, after that first initial downloading in the stone circle. When I heard the word Sedona, because I was sitting there just being, I'd learnt how to just be, because I was so full in my head with worry, and I was married, and I had problems, and I had bank managers. I was young. I was a young naturopath doctor. I started young, and I had big responsibilities. So I found a way in my medicine wheel. I was always attracted to rocks. I would collect rocks when I was 18, hitchhiking around Australia in the back of the panel van, and the person I was traveling with was upset the rocks would sway from one side to the other. So he would threaten that he'd get rid of the rocks. No, get rid of the furniture, the rocks. I mean, this was already natural in me. I don't understand how that happened from the very get-go, but I was collecting rocks, and some of those rocks became part of my medicine wheel much later on.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting in there, and I'd learned how to just do nothing. Absolutely be in the nothingness, because that's the only place that I could find that I could replenish my energy. I was so strained at the time. And so, I was called here. I heard the word Sedona. My whole spine chinked like a safe, like a my hands opened up, and I could feel this download of Sedona. And after that, I had every 2 days, or every 2 or 3 days for 2 years, I had a very strong shamanic, either a vision or a synchronism, you've read some of them, right? You've read some of these already in my book. Very strong directions constantly, even though as much as I was trying to run away from the idea of having to leave Australia, because I was why would I want to go to America? America's the same as Australia. But anyway, pretty similar. It's not as if another culture I could go to. But so I'm telling you this because the build-up of Great Spirit leading me over to Arizona, and I don't know if you've come to that part of the book where the eagle came and gave me that confirmation about going, like a big talons coming and picking me up and taking me over to Arizona. All this happened, gave me a very strong backbone already in having to lean into the confidence of Great Spirit. It wasn't as if I was saying, let me just go and listen to some stones. I had this coming in from a past life. So by the time I came here, I was confident, and I had to trust completely in what I was given with Spirit. And so what I would do consequently is I would go and drive around, and I'd say to Great Spirit, where do you want me? Tell me where you want me. And I didn't hear a word, go to this rock. I heard, it wasn't a voice. It was more like an energy, boom, over there. Okay, I have to follow that. That's the next thing. That's the next step. Okay, I don't even know what I'm going to do when I get there. Okay, when I got there, now I can tell you the process. Like, this is the original part of how I would get there. But then when I'd come to the rocks, I would sit in silence, of course, because the rocks they're not chatterboxes. You have to stream into the absolute frequency and resonance of the rocks, which is complete beingness of as it is. There's nothing else going on. And so you sit there, whether you're with a tree or whether you're with a river or whether you're with the stones, you match the frequency. You match the frequency, you empty your head, and you become very respectful of the energy. So you become silent. And then something from there, of course, I would ask permission, with something like the stones. I would ask this, my name is Amalia. I've come here to listen to your wisdom. If you feel I'm, ready and able, please impart your wisdom. And then I would have a piece of paper and pen and then be the secretary. I would listen and I would trust. Trust is the biggest part here, the biggest show, the stick where it shows you where to go is trust. The lever of where to go is trust, because once you start second guessing, you're not going with the instinct. You're not going with the trust and the intuition. And now you're already mind,
You're in your
can
doubt.
I say the word? You're in the mind zone of yes, no, right, wrong, good, bad, is this right? And then it's like a cheating system where you're just not listening to that inner stream, you see. So that's how I would retrieve the wisdom, and I would absolutely listen in. I would not have any thoughts at all until it was over.
I always had trouble. Growing up, I was always in trouble. They used to say that I was a travieso, a troublemaker. But I knew that a trickster, coyote. But I was always when I was in the second grade at my desk, I was always banging on the desk. I was always drumming from 8 years old.
Right.
Now, I was flunked. That just came up. I was flunked in the second grade. I was held back a year because of all of that. And in my training, in my process of becoming a healer and moving forward and not asking questions, I just said yes to everything. I had to go back to to my childhood, full circle through a soul retrieval that helped me to understand that I have always been this way. I have always been who and what I am, and who and what I will always be, and have always been. And those things, as I started to read your book, and I read the first 2 pages, and I laid it on my chest. I was laying on the bed in Sedona, and I started to cry, and I went to sleep. Of course I would go to sleep, because that's where things happen for me, in my sleep, in my dream state. But the drumming came up again while I was drumming for another shaman named Lady Eagle Woman. Not Lady Eagle Woman, Sarah Eagle Woman. She's from here in Los Angeles, where I had the experience where I left the room as I was drumming within the sacred circle. And thinking back to the soul retrieval, all that had happened through my lifetime around the drum kept calling me. Yours is the stone. Mine is the vibration of the drum, of the skin, of earth medicine, in a way that I didn't understand, but I didn't ask questions. And
you just have to trust. When you're a child, you're closest to source. You're not so programmed. So we definitely come in. Like if you're playing Indians, cowboy and Indians, you could probably bet your bottom dollar that you might have been an Indian in the past life, that sort of thing. So we come in, if we can remain true to our self and not be too taken away, we can certainly keep the thread going. But I wanted to finish off and tell you what I do with people here, because I didn't finish that question off.
Yes.
We spoke about how I go out into the stones and listen to the wisdom of the earth, but I've actually now coming into the tree wisdom now. It's kind of like I've evolved from trees, from rocks into trees. Slowly, maybe one day I'll evolve into a human. But now no matter what it is, my main directive is to listen and watch from Mother Earth. That's my teacher. And so in order to ground, a lot of people may not really relate to the stones. They do, but we need to put our roots down into the earth. We have our own roots in our body. The sciatic nerve that comes out of the root chakra, which is down at the base of our spine area. If you look at a picture online of the sciatic nerve, it looks like tree roots. So we do have our own tree roots that we can source down. We can follow those tree roots. This is what I do with my clients. I get them to take some deep breaths. Deep breathe all the way down into that root chakra, and then visualize with the breath coming down those roots, down the thighs, down into the knees, down into the calves, into the ankles, into the feet, and down into the earth. And by doing it this way, you using your roots. You're not just jumping a step. You're actually using your body and actually allowing the energy of your sciatic nerves to go down into the earth, and visualizing those roots going down through the layers of the different colors of the soil, and down through the waters of the earth, and down through the crystal bed of the earth, down through other tree roots of the earth, to make a connection with Mother Earth's core, her heart. Her heart. Everybody sees something different, and everybody sees their own energy. They see their own essence. And so in effect, I'm getting people to connect to their own essence, to ground to their own essence, with that of Mother Earth being the power point. And then as trees do, trees draw back up that nourishment. They draw back up the nourishment of Mother Earth, the minerals of Mother Earth, the water of Mother Earth, into their trunk, into their branches, up into the sky, so that the deeper the roots, the grander the flowering. The deeper the roots, the more someone can offer to the world, you see. And so and I do a little test beforehand. How grounded are they before I do this and after? And after they're always rock solid, without a doubt. Before that, they're kind of trying to hold it up together. And after that, they're rock solid. So that's how I do it. I do the grounding part.
When you do this, and everybody that listens to this show knows, everybody who follows me knows that when my hands go in the air, I'm talking about something in particular. And I say this: I am the tree that doesn't get knocked down by the four winds. I am in my foundation. I am in my root. And if I am in my root, my branches extend into the heavens, and the birds of the air nest in my branches and eat of my fruit. And what is my fruit? The fruit of how I got from point A to point B. And you have the experience of me too. You too, me too. So anytime I see this, I'm just like, I'm in my essence. You're right. You use that word. I am in my essence. And I have been talking about being rooted and fruited for 4 or 5 years now. Right. And that's another thing that has gone.
It's a very shamanic thing. It's not this. That's the language. There's no other language to use other than Earth's language.
Yes. And there's a place I go to here in Los Angeles. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called Descanso Gardens. And there are a lot of ancient oak trees there. And one day I came across an oak tree, and it had mirrors all around it, little mirrors. So it could see itself, I guess. I don't know. I didn't ask anybody what that was all about. But my realization was a tree never sees itself. It only sees the other trees and branches out and up to the other trees. It never sees itself. It's selfless. And when that happened, I was like, I'm that tree. I have to be that tree. And I refer to the trees as the grandmothers. I greet them. I walk around. Hi, grandmother. How are you? Our producer does the same thing with the birds of the air and the animals in her yard. Always greeting and having in conversation with that. And I found that with you when you were in Mexico. I was just in touch with you because you were talking about the constant communication. You're in constant communication, just ebb and flow, bang, 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 bang. And I could almost hear the little bells go off, bing, bing, bing. Can you share about that experience being in Mexico? And I'm going to tell you something. I'm indigenous. I'm Tarahumara from Chihuahua, Mexico area, from the Copper Canyon, my mom's family. I have been so disconnected from those teachings, from the teachings of that place, that I came in as a 50-year-old into a new teaching through other men, through a Lakota tradition. And then from that came into my own downloads and things. But as you spoke, when I was a child, they would teach us about our Aztec roots, our Mayan roots, and we would talk about all the temples and the pyramids and all these things. And as you were doing that, I became as a child again, because they don't teach us that. They took it away from us. But for some reason, and I went to parochial school, Catholic school, they were teaching us that. And I just thought as an adult, how odd that they were teaching us that, but they had already taken that away from us. So I had to go back into my roots deeply. And you took me there even further through the pages of this amazing book. And by the way, everybody, Spirit of the Stones, A Retrieval of Earth Wisdom is Amalia's book. And I don't know if you can get it on Amazon or you can go to Amalia's website.
You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. It's also on audio. I'm presently also, in a few months' time, it'll become, what do you call it? One of those Kindle books that you can listen to.
All right.
Audio book. Yeah, it's an ebook. It's a book. It's a book, an ebook, and it's going to become an audio book in a couple of months' time as well.
Will you be narrating the book?
Yes, of course I will.
That's awesome, because sometimes it gets lost when somebody else does the voice. The total translation and feeling gets lost.
So just coming back to this question you're asking, I'm not 100% sure what you're asking. I'm just going to see what happens. I'm just going to go with the flow and see what it is. That I think that Mexico is one of the richest countries I've ever been to in the world, and I've been to a lot of countries. It's a hidden jewel. I don't think it's as hidden anymore of recent times in the last 10 years. But the people there are so naturally indigenous. They're naturally indigenous. They're not, it's not cool to be shamanic or cool to wear certain things. They just are like that. And, there's a lot of stone temples there that hold, stone itself, let's face it, holds memory. They're like the bones of the earth. The bones of our body contain the genetic information of our body.
Yeah.
The rocks of the earth contain the genetic information of Mother Earth. And so not only now do we have the rocks of those times held in place with intent for housing a god or housing a king, like Lord Pakal, for example, at Palenque, you can feel the Lord. You can feel the aliveness. The prayers of the people keep that aliveness of that king or queen alive. The etchings in the rock keep things alive. It's very alive. And most of these temples are in the jungle. So, you've got full-on blast, full volume blast, nature, energy, frequency, wisdom. This wisdom is not only anchored to the earth, but the temples are always in some sort of pyramid shape, generally pinnacling up to the sky. So they're antennas, they're like antennas for information, cosmic information. And, there were always an altar, where the dancers, like my first formal dance in my shamanic way of, putting on the regalia and maybe rubbing some mud on my face and putting on those little seed pods on my ankle and lighting some incense and, getting the rocks around like an altar and dancing to the king and queen in the jungle, like as if I was there in those times. That was how I got initiated to actually become a shamanic dancer. And from those times, I've opened up very many conferences for large name people, and even worked with Neil Donald Walsh and Deepak Chopra and doing dance workshops for these people, well-known people in the world, teachers in the world, and teaching people how to dance in this way, like that shamanic way that encompasses Egyptian, Celtic, Aztec, Mayan, sort of Mayan Aztec, Aboriginal, Native American, like bringing all those cultures together, mixing it in with that modern aspect and creating another form of ceremony of respect. And so there's a lot of aliveness there in Mexico. And, a lot of the priests, the jaguar priests, were commemorated. I remember there was one temple in Huashactun, which means the 8 stones. And this was actually in Guatemala, by the way. And there was a pyramid face. This is in the middle of the jungle of nowhere, like 10 miles out of any major road. And there was a 4-sided pyramid with a square top. That's the style of the Mayans pyramids. And on the bottom of each side was a jaguar head with its eyes closed. All the jaguar heads were closed. The eyes were closed. And on the top rung, all the jaguar heads were eyes open. you know, and these are all symbolic of the shaman and the observatory of, like, it was next to an observatory of the stars, and so these were the shamans of the night sky that were able to watch the night sky and then close when the sky would go. Do you know what I mean? It was like this opening the eyes and closing the eyes, going into the inner depths of wisdom, opening in the day, closing at night. So there's such symbolic meanings in everything that they did, and they're anyway. That's all I want to say about that.
You just, you know, your book came alive as you talked about that right now, and that was amazing to feel that, and to really feel that in my heart and in my soul. I want to remind everybody that you're listening to the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine with Anthony Rodriguez, Walking Crow, and my extraordinary guest, Amalia Cummington.
Thank you.
I'm
I
excited.
also want to say that I don't know if you've come to this part in the book yet, though, that the main message, I think it's important to share this with everybody here on your show, that the main message of Mother Earth is to bridge the dualities within ourselves into the oneness. And as you started saying earlier, that we have the one hand and then the other coming into the center. It's like the bird that flies. A bird could never fly with one wing. You know, we get lopsided. I remember the first time I experienced my samadhi. Samadhi, for those of you who don't know, is that brilliance of white light where there's no thought of the person left thinking. It's just you're immersed in this white light. There's nothing going on but brilliance of ecstasy. Well, I had a few of those experiences, and I learned that on a seesaw. I would go and play on a seesaw, and I found a way playing the seesaw in the middle of the fulcrum of the seesaw, and it took months, but I found a way of being able to, my absolute aim and purpose on that seesaw was to get that middle plank. For some reason, I knew that's all I needed to do. Excuse me. And the moment I would have a thought that would come in, the seesaw would come out of balance completely. And then it would take me a while to come back into balance. So as long as you said stay in the middle of the herd, you know, if I stayed in the middle somehow and stayed empty, I was able to come into that still point. And that still point is complete balance, complete 0 point. So I learned about the 0 point at age six years old. And so now with this book, with Mother Earth is telling us to reach that 0 point within ourselves. And the only place to reach that 0 point is through the heart. And that's between the two hands. That's between the rocking of the two sides. That's ground. The heart grounds the mind. The heart doesn't have duality. The mind has duality. The mind has yes, no, right, wrong, trapped, freedom, rich, poor, you, me, this, that. The heart does not know of duality in this way. The heart is a central chamber that sits between the three lower chakras and the three higher chakras. It's the middle point. It's the hub of our vehicle. And it's also the way back home to the central force of energy that I call God, Great Spirit, God, all that is.
Yeah.
And so the book teaches us, as you may have already experienced, Anthony, to be aware of the dualities on the planet, the sun and the moon, the earth and the sky, the above and below, the masculine, the feminine. So the book dances those, weaves. Can you see that already? That there's a weaving of the masculine and feminine coming into play and coming into the oneness. And that's what Earth is asking of us, to ground our energy, ground our mind, come into the heart and connect the heart to the heart of the earth so that we can listen to what the next step is, our sacred step is.
You know, I have found myself in reading the book and reading through the pages, and everybody's got their own journey. But when I get to the similarities, or I start to weep, I start to cry, I start to come into my soul, my center, my core.
Beautiful.
But even in the things that I found in the book that I didn't connect to the experience, I found myself in the same way because you were revealing your soul and I was able to, and I always talk about water. I'll take a bottle of water and I'll turn it and I'll say, water seeks its own level always.
Yes.
You know, and when I relate to that, and not that I relate to it, but when I come into the understanding, your understanding of it, I've just come into that water, that leveling of the water, the leveling of the playing field, the opening of the heart, the opening of the door that swings both ways, and it doesn't matter, you know, just come through, just walk through, and it moves me so deeply. And I'm a Pisces, I'm emotional anyways, but boy, I also look for the meaning, the deeper, richer meaning, because I'm a water sign, because I'm water, because I manifest as male energy as well, and I live in my duality. I am just constantly moved, and I mean, I'll sit in this room or outside in the yard, and I'm just reading, and I'm in tears. I'm just in complete tears. I feel like a fool, but I'm not. I know that. I know that I'm not being fooled. I know that. I know why I'm receiving,
because you're touching into the truth. That's why.
Yes, and the truth is important. I mean,
yes.
I had to, as I stepped into my truth, and I'm going to go here for a little bit because you do it constantly in the book. You're naked in the book. You tell on yourself constantly in the book.
Very much, I do.
And
that's right.
On this show,
I'm not telling on myself. I'm not telling others. I'm being naked to Great Spirit.
Yes.
There's no hiding from that.
Yeah, I do the same on this show, and I do the same wherever I speak. Whenever I'm teaching, I am standing in the sunlight of the spirit, and there is I don't have any other way to be, you know. And I think my ism prior to sobriety was the cause for was the result of not being able to find that peace within self because of the domestication, and I'm going to talk about that, of what that constant teaching that wasn't of mine, that wasn't ours, it isn't ours. I've got I have brown skin, I'm indigenous. That is not mine. My name is not Smith. My name is not Tom. My name is not Anthony. My name is not Anthony, but that's the name they gave me. I would love to know what my name is, but for now it's Walking Crones at some point. But to come into that truth, I had to give up everything. And so did you. You gave up your life in Australia, and you absolutely knew. And it's like, that's when my tears come, because those of us that know. And I feel saddened for the rest of humanity who's like busy, you know, trying to find the next big gadget on their phone. You know, and it's not there. The gadget is here. The gadget is the silence within. Links, silence. And you talked about it. I was listening to your silence when I was reading your book. You know, and listening for those things to speak to me. And I knew that happened when the tears would come. You know? So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That was a long way to say it, but you know. So thank you for the imagery of Mexico, of a culture, of a indigenous culture that I've not known, because my father was indigenous, and you could see it in him. His skin was dark red orange, and he had a flared nose, and I don't know where my nose came from. I don't have my mother's nose. My mother has a hawk nose. She has that classic Mayan nose. And you know, I just always felt like the odd child, redheaded stepchild, pardon the expression, the ginger. You know, but coming into the medicine of who and what I am, you are, is just.
Well, you know, you mentioned about the gadget, and I just find it interesting you mentioned that, because I feel like I'd like to use the analogy of an appliance on the kitchen bench. We have a blender on the kitchen bench, and the blender is a blender.
Yeah.
But not until it's plugged into the socket can it do its job.
Source.
Not until it's plugged into the socket of the electrical socket, right? Into the plugged in, can it be activated and then therefore used for its potential of what it was created for. And so I use that same analogy with ourselves. Not until we connect into the socket, into the power point of Mother Earth, can we really be activated enough to come into our true potential. That's how I see it. Other people might have different realms that they plug into. But for me, on a more shamanic level, I've always been that, as you said you were as a child. I was that as a child too from the very get-go. Not until we can put our two legs, like the two plugs of the cord, into the earth and connect and get that juice, get that electric magnetic life force energy from the earth, because the earth is magnetic. We're not going anywhere. We don't float off. Earth keeps us close to her heart. She's got that magnetic core, keeps it all together, the magnetic core of love. And so when we connect to that, our electrical body, the electrical nerves plug into the magnetic of the earth, and there's that electromagnetic energy that gets plugged in. That's where in nature we feel we can be ourselves. We can be our indigenous selves in nature, because there are no billboards telling us what to think. Or there are no programs. There are no programs saying this is what you are. Everyone's naked in in the church of nature. And so that's why I, wanted to share with you that, yes, we are the gadget, but we need to be switched on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to ask our audience, because I know there's some people that I know who are listening who are shamanic practitioners as well. And if they have any questions, or if you folks have any questions for Amalia, we've got another 15 minutes. Please feel free to type in your question, and she'll answer it, the best she can, or how she answers, because that's
absolutely. I would love
what
to.
she does.
Come on, bring it in, bring it on. Bring it in.
The shedding of the old life.
Yes.
That's always apparent. That's a thread. That's the thread that constantly runs through your DNA of the book, of the writing, and that's you. If in fact you allude to DNA in certain parts of the book, and it's funny that I use that term. The thread of the shedding.
Mm-hmm.
I for one had to give up a lot. And am I sorry about that? At times I was, but for the most part, bye. Bye. Whether it was human or whatever material or whatever it was, Mayak, it didn't matter to me. I was willing to let go, willing. And one of the things that I core beliefs that I talk about is Grandmother Moon, second chakra, Grandmother Moon, 28-day cycle. I mix the medicine wheel with the chakra teachings. Women, divine feminine, every 28 days, release. And men, they don't have that physical, to a degree they do, but for the most part, pride doesn't let, men are men. And I came into this wordplay because I use words in a lot in my teaching with regard to willingness for men. And how they would have to come into their second chakra, willingness. And anybody of understanding of Great Britain, what a willy is in Great Britain, it's in the same place where women 28-day release. And I thought, what a silly way to teach something. But it's become such a practical tool for teaching of release. And you talked, I was reading your release, constant. It was like constant purging of the ego, of the self,
I hear what you're saying. Yes. I think that, you have the word willingness. I'm a wordsmith as well. And I play with the word release. It's like leasing an apartment. I'm constantly releasing, re-renting, unpacking and then releasing. So that's how I look at that. And the thing is that, of course, when you have a container that's full, there's no room for anything else. So, when Great Spirit commands, not demands, Great Spirit commands this of us. And it's not that we have to, the shamanic pathway is that we do have to die of those external physical senses. We have to return the vision back in and lay the ego down again and again and again. How many of those shamans out there that have had to die again and again and again and again to the point where you feel stripped naked? And that's where the work begins. You see, so the shedding of the skin, the draining of the toilet when you have to flush it to make it room for the next one. I don't know, it's coming, whatever's coming now, to have to, when we ingest new food, we have to let go the old to make room for the new. So that's just life. That's the cycle of life. Life and death. Life and death, you see. So it is important that we know that we don't have to consciously give up things. It's good if you can do it consciously. Great Spirit will definitely make it known to you, especially if you're on a very solemn, sober path to conscious awareness with all that is. But I always say, let's not wait till we die till we rest in peace.
Right.
We can rest in peace now, in every moment. Let's rest in peace. And Mother Earth helps us to rest in peace, because there's somewhere where we can drop all of those thoughts down through our inner chamber, that centered point, down through that root chakra. And it's kind of like we're having a holy shit, a spiritual caca, I call it. And we're allowing all this shit from the earth, from the mind, to bring it down and open up that sphincter down in that anal area, because that sphincter in that anal area is where we were taught as children to hold on through potty training, toilet training. That's the first place we learned to control, to hold on to our shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
I often take people through this process where we breathe down and then loosen that anal sphincter and allow all of that mental strata, the mental electricity and energy to be able to come down and siphon down. And already by doing that, following the breath down through the breath, down through that area, out through the anal area, you're having like a mental defecation. And it's a spiritual experience because you're offering it to Mother Earth, because Mother Earth knows how and what to do with that. She recycles that shit. That's S-H-I-T. She recycles it for renewable energy. And all that we were brought up with all that programming and the difficulties, and I know all of you out there have had that. As children, we've had a lot to bear and a lot of things we went through. That's the fertilizer. That's the fertilizer to bring energy that we can grow from that S-H-I-T, from that fertilizer, into a strong trunk, into our branches, into the giving of the fruit of what we've come here to birth.
I have a saying, because people get into their Chicken Little, right? The sky is falling, the sky is falling. I always say, do not be distracted by Chicken Little. Chicken Little turns to chicken shit. And you just confirmed that for me with what you said, because they're up in here. They're up in the spinning of the stupid story, the lie. Yes. It's like, no, come into your body.
The mind will cheat. The mind will cheat and lie and bitch and scratch. The body doesn't. The body does not know. Doesn't do that. The body is a pure expression.
Yeah.
Body doesn't lie. So it's a safer place to work from the gut instinct, from the presence of your beingness, of your physical being. I'm not talking about going out and exercising and weightlifting. I'm talking about being present with the earth, walking around, being present in your own home, just simply walking.
Which takes a lot more strength.
Well, it takes more focus.
Yeah. I went out for my walk this morning, and I noticed everybody's doing this.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
While they're walking. Or this, and I got a cup of coffee in their hand, and I'm like, does anybody just like walk? And I learned, I had to teach myself I had to reteach myself how to walk and be present with grandmother, grandfather rocks, grandmother trees, father sky, grandfather sun, mother earth. I had, the birds of the air, the ground animals, to be present with them.
That's right.
And they no longer run off when I walk up because I'm all charged up.
Nice.
Nonsense.
That's exactly right. Beautiful. That sounds beautiful. When I was younger, I started early on my track. I used to go to the ocean at 7, 8 years old and breathe out the last breath and sink to the bottom of the ocean, lay there and just experience what death was like. I mean, who does that at 7 years old? Me. Yeah, exactly. Me. Hello, everybody. Anyway, I wasn't fascinated. It was just me. I didn't think about it, Anyway, the reason I'm saying this is that I used to count the conscious steps I would take to the store and back at 16. How many conscious steps can I take before a thought would come in? So it does take strength. It does take practice. It takes diligence. But just know that by practicing something like this, you get closer and closer to the magic. That the magic that abounds can only be seen and heard when you're tuned to that station. When you're thinking and worrying, magic that's always there won't be revealed to you. You can't see it because you're already in your own shield or your own shroud. But when you can open up the ears, your shamanic ears, and open up the eyes and be present to the simplicity of the magic that abounds, that is always there waiting for us, you'll see a little something on the ground that will mean something to you from a child, or you'll see a shape of a cloud in that moment because you're present. You might even see a spaceship. I've seen spaceships because I was present. There's magic is there, everybody. It has never left us. The Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden has never, ever left us. We left the garden. So please, everybody, let's just get back to the garden. Let's get back to our heart. Let's get back into the wonder of who we are as children of the earth, and be simple and live our life with simplicity and truth. Aho.
Aho.
That's what I want to say.
Aho me takoyase. Aho. Man, it's like going to church.
Yeah.
When I'm in this current sort of a conversation, for me, I remember having those days, my first days, I would go to church and I was like, I would hear the word and I was like, oh man, yeah. And then I'd hang around a little longer and I realized that, this guy who's preaching got into this business for all the right reasons and stayed in it for all the wrong reasons. And I can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
But
right.
This, our common thread is earth, ground, soul, heart, breath, water, sun.
Mm-hmm.
It's listening, get quiet. I have students and other teachers that we would have conversations and they would say this: I don't understand why. I'm like, why do you have to understand? Why can't you just say yes? Say yes.
That's nice.
Yes, the
That's
understanding
nice.
will come through the yes.
That's lovely. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's what my path has been. It's been a path of yes. When will you say yes? When will when will these world leaders say yes? Whoever, whatever it is, just say yes. And then there's no war, and there's no fight. There's no defending. When you put your dukes up, it's right over your heart space. You're defending. I don't have to defend myself. I just say yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Wow, what an amazing journey that 3-letter word is. It's a it's a 3-letter word. It's a pyramid. It's just a 3-letter word.
Yes,
but,
especially if you're aligned with the truth. Yes is a good part. Of course, we're talking, Anthony, you're talking about the yes that comes from the holy yes, or the righteous yes, not yes to strange things, but yes to. I just want to clarify that and make sure it's not just a yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amalia, I want to thank you for being my special guest on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you for reading my book.
I'm going to continue reading it because
great.
Yeah, it's inspiring. It's really inspiring. And if there's those of you who don't have a path or don't know what it is to be what a path is, reach out to Amalia at earthspiritwisdom.com. Reach out to me at Anthony at sacreddrummedicine.com. Reach out to us. We can help you find a path and let us know. Thank you for coming in and being with me. And I look forward to seeing you early May. I'll be in Sedona for a thing that I'm doing. And thank you very much.
I thought you froze for a moment. I think did you get that through? On this end, you were frozen for a little while, but I think it's okay, right?
Yeah, I froze for about 10 seconds or so, but I think it went through. But once again, reach out to Amalia, earthspiritwisdom.com. And her book is Spirit of the Stones, The Retrieval of Earth's Wisdom. What an amazing, amazing, amazing read. And thank you for being an amazing woman, a divine goddess. Aho. And I want to thank you for coming aboard. Aho.
Thank you, Anthony.
I want to remind everybody you've been listening to the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine Show with myself, Anthony Rodriguez, Walking Crow.
I really enjoyed it.
And thank you. I really enjoyed it as well. So I want to remind everybody every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be right here waiting for you with open arms, open heart, open breath. Aho. And I want to thank everybody for coming. Anthony Rodriguez, Walking Crow, for the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine Show. Have a beautiful day.